The first is a consideration raised to show that adopting a certain strategy is unlikely to achieve the intended effect. The second presented to explain the appeal for the appeal is a support for the strategy. Absolutely not. The first, these two are against each other because there is a but here. So option B is the correct answer. Let's again see what's here in option B. Let me write it correctly. So we are left with option B, which is the correct one. Uh, Option B says the first is a consideration raised to explain the appeal of a certain strategy. The second is a consideration raised to call into question the wisdom of adopting that strategy, means the first strategy. Option B. Okay, question number 2. The city official is saying something. At the city hospital, uninsured patients tend to have a shorter stay and fewer procedures performed than do insured patients, even though insured patients on average have slightly less serious medical problems at the time of admission to the hospital than uninsured patients have. Critics of the hospital have concluded that uninsured patients are not receiving proper medical care. However, this conclusion is almost certainly false. Careful investigation has certainly shown two things. Insured patients have much longer stays in the hospital than necessary, and they tend to have more procedures performed than are medically necessary. So, now again we do the same exercise. Bold 1, bold 2. This is having one however in between, so we'll take into consideration a however here in between. So bold 1 is critics of the hospital have concluded. If it is saying concluded, that means this is the conclusion of the critics. Okay. The second says, however, this conclusion is almost certainly false. So this is again a conclusion. This conclusion is certainly false. So, and then he says the careful investigation. So this is again a conclusion. We can say this is the author's conclusion or the city official's conclusion. You can say that. So there are two bolds, both are conclusion, bold 1 and bold 2, both being conclusion, the first one being of the critics, the second one being of the authors. So let's arrange the argument as we did last time. Okay, so let me rub it off and see. It starts with the city hospital official who says that the city hospital uninsured patients tend to have short stays and fewer procedures performed than do the insured patients, even though insured patients on average are slightly less have uh, have slightly less serious medical problems at the time of admission to the hospital than uninsured patients. So this is the situation he's saying. Then the critics of the hospital, based on this, concluded that the uninsured patients are not receiving a proper medical care. So it comes out with a fact, which is fact 1, followed by a conclusion, which is drawn by the city official, which is a bold, which is the bold one for us, and it is the critic's conclusion. This is followed by another fact, followed by however, which demarcates this argument. And there is another fact here, fact 2. Sorry, and then we are having a conclusion here. Sorry. However, this conclusion is almost certainly false. So conclusion 2, which is again our bold 2. And to substantiate that conclusion, he says that careful investigation has recently shown two things. So this is a fact. Fact 2. Since there is a however here, so this means these conclusions they differ. They do not go. They are against each other. This is the simplified diagram of how the argument has been rolled out. Okay, now the question is, in the city officials argument, the two bold-faced portions play which of the following roles? We know both are conclusions. So that make it easier for us. Let's see. The first states the conclusion of the city officials argument. The second provides a support. The first is a support. The first was a support. Out. The first is used to support the out. The first states the position of the city officials argument. The second states the conclusion. Position means the conclusion. Option E, correct answer. E is the correct answer. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's see. Question number 3. Environmental